Good morning. Thanks, Tree. Depending on where you are, it's a wet start in the southern part of the state and sort of cloudy and a little smoky in northern parts of the state. Looking at a pretty straightforward forecast, actually. Weather system that we've had with us over the last couple days is going to be moving off into the east here by this afternoon. But in the past week, generally a cooler than normal week for much of lower Michigan and near normal. In the north, on the left-hand side here, these are our temperature departures for the past week, and you can see that, especially in southern parts of the state, it was a relatively cool week. And I think it's worth also noting that these are the first two back-to-back cooler than normal weeks we've had during the growing season. So things slowed down in terms of development and degree day accumulations, et cetera. That's the first time that that's happened so far this growing season. For precipitation totals here on the right-hand side, it depends again on where you were, but totals ranged from, and this one only goes through yesterday. And I'll show you just here in a moment. There's been quite a bit of precipitation in the southeast in the last 12 hours that will change this map considerably. But it was a wet week, especially again given the last couple of days here. More than half an inch over almost all of Upper Michigan and then northwestern Lower, and also it turns out now. Here recently across southeastern Lower Michigan as well, but we had good coverage of precip. I Totals were a little bit less as you go to the uh, east central part of the state so far, and that probably was the lowest totals that we see here for the week. Soil moisture. Looking at our current situation, this is actually a couple days old, but two areas. This is looking at the top foot and a half of the soil profile. So we're looking more at the topsoil conditions here. But dry conditions or there have been dry conditions down over the southwestern lower and over portions of upper Michigan, especially the west. But other than that, it's our soil moisture levels are fairly close to where they should be for this time of the year. Degree day totals, seasonal accumulations here. Got two different periods of reference here. On the outside, the far left and far right, those are totals starting on the 1st of March. And you can see our base 50 accumulations range from a little over 200 in the far north to now about 500 or 550 in the far south. And on the right-hand side here, at least those seasonal accumulations, you can see because of the cooler than normal week, we have some uh, negative departures in northern parts of lower Michigan and central upper Michigan, while we're still a day or two calendar day ahead of normal across the far south. So we've taken a lot of the surplus that we had for almost all the season thus far. We've lost that over the last couple of weeks, or lost a considerable portion of it. In the middle here, that's the 8650 cutoff degree day total. That starts on May 1. So there's a lot on this particular graphic, but I think that the thing of note here is that for much of lower Michigan, we're behind relative to the start on the beginning of May. Uh, some deficits there, and in the far north, we're near or maybe even a little bit ahead of normal. So it depends on where you are, north to south across the state, but it is relative to the beginning of May, we're actually a little bit behind. Over the last week, with the active upper air pattern that we've had, another closed low moving through the region here, we did have a couple days of sustained southerly and southwesterly winds. We talked about this a little bit last week at the briefing, and this is a map from this past Tuesday evening, but we had a sustained period of again southerly flow into the Great Lakes and into Michigan here. So we've got essentially a transport event, and for pathogens, insects, etc., anything that was to our south, especially the Ohio Valley or farther south, had a chance of making it up here to Michigan over the last couple days. That's ending now, but we did have I wanted to bring that out that there was a possible transport event here earlier this week. So if you see something new, it probably came in here from on those southerly winds earlier in the week. Currently, our map here on the left-hand side here, you can see the precipitation with the weather system that's just passing through the state here, moving slowly, and it's really slowly off to the south and east. Radar shows most of it limited to the southeast corner of the state, and then we've got cloudy and cool conditions further to the north of that, mostly temperatures in the 40s. So significant change, cooler air behind this the frontal boundary that's moving through the state right now than there was ahead of it. We've had a couple days actually into the 80s in the southern part of the state. On the right hand side here, I mentioned precip in the southeastern part. You can see that here. This is brand new data, 24-hour precipitation totals from our radar sensors or radar estimates, and you can see in the green here is anything a half an inch or greater. So we had widespread coverage across southeastern lower Michigan here overnight, and actually through the present time here. So fairly solid rain. This is probably the most widespread rainfall event we've had across the state in some time. As it turns out, it started 48 hours ago, but there's still significant rain left down in the lower right hand or down to the southeastern corner of the state, but it will be ending here by the middle of the day or early afternoon. Our weather map reflecting what we just saw here, the frontal boundary that's brought the precipitation now down almost out of the state into Ohio and Indiana. That will slowly move off to the east during the day, and high pressure behind that will move in. So we'll have most areas decreasing clouds with lingering rain possible in southeast, but decreasing clouds elsewhere. By tomorrow, you can see that that system edges off a little bit to the east, but there's another weak upper air system that's going to be moving through the region tomorrow, and that's going to cause at least a chance for some additional rainfall. I think it's going to be confined mainly to northern parts of the state, the Upper Peninsula. You can see that depicted here tomorrow morning. Most of the state should remain dry tomorrow, and most of the state should actually remain dry on Saturday as well with high pressure. It will be somewhat cooler. Actually, we'll call it seasonable temperatures, mostly in the 70s for high temperatures today and tomorrow, and then into Saturday as well. Fairly stable. Not seeing much of a trend that way. Low temperatures from the upper 40s, mid and upper 40s in the far north to the low 50s in the south. And that's not too far away from where a little bit below where the climatology says we should be for this time of the year. But looking for most areas, a couple dry days. And then the next weather system to mention begins to get its act together, organized. That will be on Sunday. So the next chance for rain for most folks will be during the day, especially the afternoon on Sunday, overnight Sunday, and then continuing into Monday. And that one looks like it could be fairly widespread across the state with quarter to half inch totals certainly possible, maybe even some higher totals than that. So when we put everything in the gauge here for the week, we have most areas here, you can see a half an inch or less in the far south, and then maybe 3/4 to an inch in the north. And my comment here would be, if we especially look at the northern part of the state, most of that would be coming here on Sunday and Monday. And there's still another tenth or two in the southeast here today, but then some additional rain on again on the Sunday Monday time frame as well. But generally not too far away from normal for this time of the year for the early part of June. Our water demands, potential evapotranspiration rates here are fairly close to normal for this time of the year. 1400s to 1800s expected on average for the upcoming week. So again, nothing extraordinary or out of the ordinary, I guess I should say, below or pretty close to where climatology says we should be for this time of year. And then moving into the medium range forecast guidance here, there are some changes and similar to last week, we talked about the models having some difficulty being consistent and as to what's ahead, and there were some different differences. They're still there. I guess that's the bottom line. But for the 6 to 10 day outlook, if we look at the jet stream pattern here, you can see a trough over the far western part of North America, another one over the east, and then a ridge in between. Of course, we're somewhere in between, and then you can see the forecast temperatures here in the upper right and precipitation in the lower right. So generally near normal temperatures here for much of next week with normal to above normal precipitation. And then in the 8 to 14 day time frame, which takes us through the 18th, you can see that trough develops a little bit more out in the western part of the U.S. with the ridge, and that brings our temperatures up. So I think the message here in the guidance is really looking at a gradual again, warming or back to warmer than normal temperatures with normal to above normal precipitation totals. But I think the big message is really probably that ultimately warmer temperatures come back here before too long. And one last one here, we did have a updated 30-day outlook for the month of June. That's on the top here. This is different than what you've seen. This really strongly reflects what you just saw with the medium range forecast guidance. And so for the month of June, again, expected to average out warmer than normal with no direction on precip. And it had been warmer than normal, but it also had been maybe a little bit drier than normal in the earlier version of this. So they've backed off of that. It looks like there's a little bit more. The jet stream pattern that we looked at here just a minute ago, frequent chances for precip. That would be one of the messages with that. But again, the grain of salt is the consistency here is not what you'd like to see. So confidence probably a little bit lower than usual for our medium range guidance. But all collectively here again, it does ultimately suggest that we go back towards warmer than normal temperatures here a week to 2 weeks out. So wrapping up here, rain ending here with the current weather system in the southeast in the next few hours, and decreasing clouds elsewhere, setting the stage for well, most areas of a fairly decent day tomorrow and on Saturday. A little cooler than it's been, but then the next chance for rain on late Sunday and into to Monday with temperatures pretty close to where the normals say they should be for this time of the year. And then the medium range you saw here, maybe gradually getting moving back towards a warmer than normal scenario. And I'll stop there